live from the beautiful, most pristine mountains of Appalachia, close to the birthplace of future Vice President J.D. Vance.
Yeah, he's. How far are we from?
A couple hours.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, he's within. He saw smoke every morning in the mountains. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He woke up to the mist.
yeah.
Yeah. He drinks Mountain Dew.
I had a conversation with Well, we could. I don't know about JD Vance. I think his story is really good.
Oh, he's got a great story.
Yeah, he's got a great story.
You think he's the Antichrist?
I don't think. I don't think he's the Antichrist. Here's what I worry about, because you can go a couple of ways with people that grew up in poverty and pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and early people that excelled early in life, which is kind of what he did. They can either be just ambitious, like a Ben Carson type person, or a Thomas Sowell type person, and really make something of themselves, or they can become so ambitious that they become especially when they get into politics, elitist. Yeah. And so it's like, yes, I'm so eager to get out of that, get away from my upbringing.
Yeah.
And I'm not bestowing that on him. I'm just saying I approach all of them with caution. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe we can if he should come on the show and
there you
prove
go.
us wrong.
If anybody out there knows JD Vance, come on the show.
Have him
I'd
come
love
on the
to meet
show.
you.
We'll even fly him in, and he can sit down and talk to us. I think he drinks oat milk personally. Just by looking at him, he looks like the kind of guy that was like, I was tough, everything. I was, I'm ex-military. I can snap your neck, but now I drink oat milk.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened to him. And I'll just say it. He just has that he carries himself that way,
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of an oat milker.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, if you drink oat milk, we like you. Just stop listening to the show.
I've never seen the udder on a note, but
yeah, okay. So tonight we got a lot to go over. First of all, Joe Biden delivered. We saw him. He came out of hiding, out of his solitary confinement on the beach in Delaware. Poor thing, with his millions of dollars, to say that he was stepping down, and he tried to unite America by stepping down. That was his real, his driving
gaslighting.
Force. Yeah, driving force behind him. Trying to step down.
They love to. It's the old saying: whatever they bestow on us, they themselves are doing. And he's talking about how he's been a unifier, and I'm like, bro, you are the least unifying president and I'm including Trump. Trump at least was,
more than Obama. You think?
Yeah. Well,
I think Obama was the division.
Obama was the division. People were unified around his election and re-election, but he was a divisive force. And it's kind of the thing that it was happening in front of everybody without them realizing it.
Yeah.
And the counteraction or the reaction to him was obviously Donald Trump, and then they had to go full bore against Donald Trump because for multiple reasons. One is because he wasn't part of the establishment, the deep state, but
and he tweets,
mean tweets. I mean, anything. They weaponize the system against him.
He is not a great orator.
Who, Trump?
Yeah, it's one of those where you're like, he's going to tell you what he thinks. He's too New York for the job. I feel like he's going to tell you you're fat.
Yeah,
only
Rosie O'Donnell.
Only Rosie, but still, it's like. Sometimes he's a little over the line, and he's crass, and people don't care for that. But he did always say what came to mind for the most part, what I think. So
yeah, I mean, well, and even to somebody who supports the guy, he's not the most eloquent speaker in the world. He's not hyper specific. You expect, and I was having a conversation last week with somebody. We talked about how we'd love for it to get back to the more, I don't want to say mundane, but people talking specifics when it comes to policy. Like Romney and Obama, or Obama and McCain, when they were debating Reagan and Mondale. We went back and talked about that.
Go back, Bush, all of them had specifics that they were going to do.
Right, but the reason we had tempered politics back then is because these were all people of the system. Obama was of the system; he was part of the establishment.
They were all part of the same.
And so they kept it. The people behind the scenes kept it tempered, so that we weren't, You know what I mean?
There wasn't the vitriol.
Yeah, there wasn't the
Because
vitriol.
they were two sides of the same coin.
But the minute somebody outside of that system, Donald Trump comes in, and it's like, all right, let's turn these.
I saw a fascinating thing, and she must have been homeschooled. A young girl did almost an Ancestry.com of all the presidents.
Yes, I saw that.
And all but one came from the same loins. Originally.
All related. Yeah.
All of them are related.
Even Obama, and who played like an outsider.
Who I never found out who's the one that wasn't.
I think it was Trump, but I'm not 100% certain of that.
Yeah, I'm not either. It would make sense.
That would make sense that they wouldn't say that.
Right, that they wouldn't say it. I mean, I could see him being like Garfield, wasn't it? Right? Because nobody cared. Nobody cared, really.
No, nobody
Lyndon
cared.
Johnson wasn't related.
Right.
So, but Trump, they're not going to say that. Because that'll just reinforce every gun-toting, Confederate flag-waving Southerner is going to be, So they'll be grabbing their bush light and heading for the mountains.
Right.
So,
True.
We got a lot to talk about, though, tonight. Number one, Biden's speech tonight.
Yes.
Fresh off the press. You're going to hear about it tomorrow. If you didn't listen to it, you'll hear about it on all the talk radio and everything else. Just in his, it's funny because his tone makes you feel like he's just a good guy, kind and gentle. He wants to unite us, which is why he's stepping down. Except the words out of his mouth are literally the very opposite. Like when he says democracy is at stake. Well, let's talk about this, Joe, for just a minute.
Yeah.
Does your own party have the opportunity for a voice? Are you giving your own party a voice into who becomes their selected person? I mean, I don't know. Any Democrats that are listening, did any of you have a chance to put in your 2 cents as far as this new person, Kamala?
No, she's never received a vote. She's never received a vote. I mean, when she was running, she barely broke 1%. So she dropped out before.
She dropped out before the Iowa primary.
Yep. And so she is not the people's choice. She was the one chosen by Joe Biden, and now they're talking. She's
the people's choice now, though.
Well, they're forcing that. They still have the convention, and so they could. A lot of people are saying there should be open primaries to find out who they want to be the candidate, and the establishment itself, I believe, needs her because she's another empty suit, an empty head that will say what they want her to say.
She'll play the game,
and she's getting a head start because they're already transferring the money, the $91.5 million that Joe Biden has. There's all these FEC rules on how that can be spent, and so that's why Trump is filing that lawsuit against her. His campaign is filing a lawsuit against her because it can be transferred back to the Democrat Party or to the DNC, and they can use a portion of it for the campaign, but she loses about 2/3 of that money. That's the math that I have seen from, as I was reading it, I was like,
sources,
multiple sources. They're saying, okay, she can have about 30 million of the 91 million. But my take is, let them, she'll just spend it. She's got between now and her campaign, between now and their convention, which is when is their convention?
Couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's got between now and then to spend through all that money, and who's going to do anything about it?
She will. She'll spend it all. Yeah. She'll have the new Gucci bag. She'll be driving. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she'll spend it.
Nobody's going to, but she'll spend it, and nobody's going to do anything about it.
Right.
So if Trump did it, they would bring the full weight of the justice system down on top of him. But if the Democrat Party does it,
it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, I do want to talk about this, though, because there was a moment during the speech where I'm almost 100% certain that I heard something. Oh, yeah. Hold on 1 minute. Let me just see if anybody else hears this.
To bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world.
What was that? What was that?
Oh, crank up the volume so you can hear that.
Did he just do what I think he did? I think he did. I think he's got to have something on there. He better have something on.
Yeah.
At least and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained.
Here it comes.
All around the world.
Yes. That was a squirt if I've ever heard one.
I wish you, this literally
just happened.
It literally
just happened. You didn't have time to pull it up.
Well, and I didn't realize it. And I would have pulled up the audio. I would have put it into my editing software
a way to boost it.
Lifted that up just so we could hear it.
Yeah, I love it. I love this stuff.
It's crazy.
So yeah, I think that just happened though. I think it just happened. So you better check his shorts after that speech.
I thought it was wholly unimpressive. I mean, the whole thing.
Oh, it was.
In general.
If I was stepping down from the highest office, right, and I had a chance, I would go out there like Kid Rock. You know, I would. Yeah. It would be lights and smoke. It'd be like, I'm done. You know, you got like, this is a celebration. You know, I want to hear well done. Yeah. And you know, I love the statement like I'm passing on. I'm the first president to have no wars. Right?
Well, other than the one in Ukraine and the one in
that's
Gaza.
not ours though.
But
it is.
Yeah.
But that's not ours. But it really is.
The one we've pumped about $200 billion into that.
Right.
So.
We might as well have. Yeah. It probably would have been cheaper if we did it ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it would be over.
No, it would. Well, yeah, you're probably right.
So, but no, instead, I'm the first president that's got us out of all the wars and everything. It's like, yeah, but we're about to probably have one here on our own turf because of all, you know, the flood of people coming in that don't belong here.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Well, he said, we were talking about this pre-show. He also said he's going to, the one that scared me the most was Supreme Court reform.
Yes.
And he reiterated Supreme Court reform.
Do you know what the goal is there for Supreme Court reform? Like what's he going for?
Term limits.
Term limits.
Yeah, he's going for term limits.
Okay.
Dangerous precedent to set.
Yeah, are they having term limits then on
senators? No.
Okay, that's
senators
odd.
And congressmen. No,
that's odd, isn't it? That
yeah. But the courts have. If you can get the Supreme Court on more of a cycle, I guess, similar to the Senate and the House, then it leaves you a lot of room. You know, because it used to be that people would come and go, and now there's career politicians, and you can. It leaves the door open, but they're also doing a lot of legislating from the bench, and that's how you get things baked into the Constitution, and you get things baked into legal precedent that lasts forever. It's the Supreme Court is the place, and the Supreme Court was never supposed to be that powerful, but they're trying to push the width and breadth and the limits of the Constitution so hard that term limits would most definitely benefit the left and not the Constitution and the right.
Right.
Because they're what they push. Most of it's antithetical to the Constitution. I mean, it's Marxism, man. Like,
okay, so let's talk about Marxism, and
it's bad.
It is bad. It's, I believe, satanic.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But we'll talk about Marxism for a minute because I want us to all know that, first of all, future possible presidential nominee. I don't believe she's going to. I know that we are tinfoil hatters, but I don't think she's going to get it. This is all smoke and mirrors.
You think they're going to run somebody else?
Absolutely. In fact, there was on Amazon in 2020. I saw a post today. There was some obscure show on Amazon 2020 that they came out with. And in one of the scenes, a guy is walking into an apartment, and on the wall behind him is a poster that says Oprah, Kamala, and it's got their faces. It's like a political poster.
Yeah.
And this was in 2020.
Right.
It said Oprah, Kamala. They always foreshadow somehow, right?
Well, the ballots it was Michigan or Wisconsin, one of those states up there, and it had when they mailed the ballots out, it had Michelle Obama on the actual like little pamphlet that went on the inside of it. They had Michelle Obama in there, so people were like, "Hey, is this what does this mean? Is this
right?" There's
foreshadowing?
too many things happening.
Yeah.
Number one, number two. They actually are going to have to figure out what they're going to do with like states like Ohio.
Right.
Because if you remember, Joe Biden had trouble getting on the Ohio ballot because he didn't apply or didn't register fast enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, now they're months later.
Yeah. They'll make a pass for it. I mean, or I would say a pass. They'll give them a grace period. They shouldn't.
Well, it's the law.
Yeah.
They shouldn't.
Law. Right.
What they should do is say, okay, it's got to be a write-in though. It's that simple.
Yeah.
We've got a line down there.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to write her name down.
And you got to spell it right.
Yeah. Well, good luck
It's
with.
got to be legible.
And you know what they'll say? Because of racism.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah. That's not fair.
Right.
Like
it's the law.
But why isn't it fair? Well, because these inner city people can't read or write.
Oh yeah.
You can hear it. This is the game they'll play. Oh yeah, it's racist.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. I'm so fed up with that. So, at any rate, her mother and father were both in academics.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala's, not Oprah's, but her dad was a teacher, and was kind of one of those I don't know, Marxist professors.
Yeah.
So he was Jamaican.
Right.
And he worked at, I believe, he teaches economics at Stanford.
Mm.
And her mom was a biologist.
Right.
So Marxism is definitely part of her DNA.
People in academia,
Yeah.
they've all got a hint of, I mean, that's where Marxism lives right now. I mean, that was, I guess you would say that's the first place that it really started to make its way in on any consistent level into America, into the youth of America and into our psyche, was in academia, which is that's very clever. It's the Marxist way to do it, right?
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
it's part of who she is, and we know her track record, right? We like nobody knew her track record till she arrived out of California. Now everybody followed her, and we're really going to dive in. You'll see the deep dives into, all the different things that she is firmly believed in,
right,
all along,
right,
and every one of them is just
and the nefarious stuff that she did in California.
Oh well, yeah.
Keeping people past their like extending sentences so that they could use people as
work labor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Slave labor inside of the prison system.
She didn't do that though. She wouldn't do such.
Yes, she would. Yes, she would. But Joe Biden pitching her as the next generation of leaders, right? The next. How did he put it? Passing the torch to the next generation is
how he. Bit of a stretch.
She's the same political animal. I mean, look at how she got in her first job, her first no-show job, making $100,000 a year in California by sleeping with Willie Brown.
Right.
I mean, that was her.
Right.
That was her.
And before that, she was a guest of Montel Williams.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So whatever happened to him, I wonder.
Montel, I have no idea.
Yeah, he's hanging out, I bet, with Flava Flav.
You think so?
Yeah. Like, where'd they go? Whatever happened?
And I say that's how she got started. She's married now. Let's assume that she has a perfectly happy marriage.
She's got two stepkids. She's blended family like so many others. She's she's doing her best, I'm sure.
It's the ambition side of it and the dishonesty. So it's in general, whether it's on the right or left, the dishonesty in politics is what gets me the most. And that's when when we hear the president speak, we've picked it out of her speeches and out of things she said over the years, and it's one thing after another. It's a falsehood. It's a falsehood. It's a falsehood. And then Joe Biden said tonight, he said that border crossings are at an all-time low. Well, that's a lie. That's not true. He said he's a president for all Americans. Well, that's a lie. He's been another divisive figure in politics, and he's vilified half of the people, the ones that vote for Donald Trump. He said that I grew up a kid with a stutter, and I made my way all the way to the White House. That's carrying forward a lie that we have been fed
right
up to this point about why he wasn't able to speak, and we can see video back 40 years of him talking. That's never been the case. No. There's no evidence of that. And so it's just the dishonesty, the I guess projection or the whatever it is, that trying to shape these narratives that are not so, to try to form a vision of how our country is being run that is not accurate. Meanwhile, we're out here suffering, and it's him It's President Biden. It is Vice President Harris. It is the whole mainstream media machine telling us, do not believe your lying eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the only way we're going to get away from this is non-establishment political figures. I'm not a fan of RFK and his policies, but at the very least, the guy sits outside the system. That's what got his father killed. That's what got his uncle killed, is that they were outside the system. Donald Trump is outside the system. And that's where we're going to get our transparency. Kamala Harris, if people out there are Democrat voters, Kamala Harris is not a transparency president.
No.
Like, she's not going to be.
No, and she's not a unifier. I mean,
No.
this is the other half. It's like you go, okay, we want somebody that's going to unite everybody. First of all, that's not going to happen in these next 4 years.
Right.
I don't care who it is because we are so divided, right,
No.
on the issues.
Correct.
And this just goes to show the enemy's play. If you're a believer in Christ, Satan is called the accuser of the brethren, which means the divider of the brethren. So he divides people. That's what he does. I mean, here's a great example, of things that she has done to divide. Number one, voting to convict Trump.
Right.
Well, okay, that's not something the Uniter does.
Right.
When over half the country voted for him, right?
And you know that the evidence had been doctored, and you know that it's a political prosecution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's not somebody that's a uniter. The BLM rioters, bailing them out.
Right.
That's not a uniter.
No.
Right?
Right.
She's not a uniter. It clear, straight down the line. There's nothing unifying about her. Sorry.
Right.
So, and these are just the things that, Kavanaugh. She was one of the voices of against Kavanaugh.
Right.
With that whole sex scandal. And sorry, in this day and age, I would just say, ladies, be careful because you're crying wolf. So many times we hear the same rhetoric now that it becomes white noise.
Right.
Right? Yes, there are evil players out there that do bad things. We get it. But the more times you hear that, the more and it's fake. The more times that you go, okay, oh really?
Right.
It used to have some shock and awe to it, and now it's like, okay, I don't know if I believe you or not.
The people that it actually happened.
Yeah, I feel bad for them.
Right. They're the ones who suffer for people using it as a cudgel.
Yeah,
right.
And especially a political cudgel.
Right.
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 So he didn't do any of those things that were the allegations against him. He was willing to take a poly test to prove it. He said, "I'll do whatever they want to do." She was staunch in the seats and even walked out in protest of voting for him. Didn't even vote for him.
Yeah.
Walked out. That's not a uniter.
No. So
on the flip side, Trump's got some hurdles to overcome in uniting too.
He does. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that he's a better uniter. Doesn't matter who it is right now, though. The division is deep enough that it's going to take a cycle or two before people start to come together.
Right.
Or a major catastrophe.
Right.
Like an eruption at Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. That was terrifying.
Right.
Have you seen Day After Tomorrow? Or not? Is it not Day After Tomorrow?
That movie.
The one where it happens. Yeah. Not Nicolas Cage. What's that guy's name? Either way. No, I think the bigger thing, back to the uniting piece, what's each side trying to unite around? And, on the right, it's on the conservative side, we are, I guess, hearkening back to what used to unify us: a sense of national pride, national identity, the rights, freedoms, and liberties granted by our Constitution and our way of government, individual, responsibility and opportunity. And these are things that used to be, the old stars and stripes, things that would unify us. The other side has vilified all of those things, and everything that they tried to push, whether it is a climate agenda, or it is a welfare system, or expanding welfare system, expanding all of these entitlements that will ultimately they sound good on the surface, and that's as far as they go, are things that are ultimately going to reduce our standard of living as they already have, right? Because it's going to require more printing. It's going to require, authoritarianism over businesses. They want to expand things like government agencies, EPA, and all that. And this is taking a big, massive government and it will and does crush the American people, crush the entrepreneurial spirit. And then at the same time, they're saying we need to divide people along racial lines and gender lines and sexual orientation lines. There's nothing unifying on the left. It's all smoke and mirrors. It sounds nice on the surface, but underneath there is Marxism, there is division, and there's control over your day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
So to us, because we follow this stuff all the time, anybody that's out there can make some comments here if what you think about this, but what would be a unifying message from people on the left? I really want to know what is actually unifying about them.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, you touched on the right's unification plan, right?
Yeah.
And those are all the things that the left hates.
Yeah.
And so we don't really have a plan either. I mean, we're unified around COVID a little bit, right? Except the vaccine. But we were all unified around hating the fact that we have to deal with this now.
Right.
Right? None of us like that.
Yeah.
But
how quickly were they able to take something where we were all like,
they politicized it the second day it was out.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right.
And the bird flu is going to be the same thing.
Right.
I mean, it's already a thing. Like, it's already becoming a thing.
Right.
And so, you sit back and go, does everything have to be political? I mean, first of all, that's a great question. Why does everything have to be political?
Right.
Why does the NFL have to be political? Why does college football have the right to be political? And where are the men and women who say, I don't care what your opinion, it's like we're living in an alternate reality, right? Where when I grew up, my father instilled in me, nobody actually cares what you think. Mm-hmm. Do what you're told so you can keep your job.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like, everybody has to care what you think. No. I mean, I'm teaching my kids, like, sorry, that's not how this works.
Right.
I mean, I watched a video of these companies that won't hire Gen Xers or Gen Zers. They won't hire them.
Right.
Because they're like, they can't work. I fired one of them and her dad called me to get her job back. It's like, that's not normal. I mean,
yeah.
If this isn't like at McDonald's, this is like a grown-up college graduate getting a job at a law firm who got terminated and then her dad called. That's not normal.
No,
this isn't real life.
Yeah.
And so what would be the unifier though? I mean, what would it take? Another 9/11? We were unified then for a while.
No, but I think it will be. I think it's going to be financial collapse, the next unifying event, when they say, okay, and people will have that realization that, you know what, we now know why this happened. I know why I'm only eating one meal a day, and I know why I have to go stand down in a bread line to get food or whatever it happens to be. And
I don't think that'll unify. I think that'll tear it apart.
Well, I think that will awaken some people, and we will all be unified against an authoritarian government, I believe. But,
yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah,
although that authoritarian government's the one feeding you at that point.
Yeah, but it's kind of like what, yeah.
I mean, so you bite the hand that feeds you. I mean, so I get that's the question. Have we gone too far now? Are we too far? I mean, baseball and American Pie.
Yeah.
When you had people today tear down the American flag in front of the Capitol and put up a Palestinian flag at the Capitol, right?
Yeah. Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Like, does that not just turn your stomach?
Yeah.
Like, they all...
You know what could be a unifying thing? And revival inside of America.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That could be because, I mean, when things get bad, when it starts to get really bad and people start looking for direction, there's a big rise in viewership for people like, is it George Janko, I believe is his name. I don't know if you've seen him or not. He's a podcaster. He's been huge. He's kind of blown up over the past year or so. And I've only been paying attention to him for that long. But his show has shifted to him talking about his faith. Jake Paul has had people on his podcast, and he's talking about his faith. There's this yearning out there for these very influential people who have now made it to the pinnacle of social media or whatever.
Russell Brand,
exactly.
You know,
and they're like, this is not giving me purpose. This is not my purpose. Where is my purpose? And people start looking up because they've got the money, they've got the cars, and they realize how empty the lifestyle they're living is. There's technically no higher purpose to what
Rob
they're doing.
Schneider from SNL, the comedian.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of them coming out now where it's like, okay. And here's the other half. Like, okay, celebrities coming out as being believers. Mm-hmm. It's great. Mm-hmm. But is that what it's going to take? Are we really that sheepish that we are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We are that sheepish that we're going to follow the crowd, right? We're going to, this is what they feel, and this is what I want to do. You know, like my kids, football is a great example. The wide receivers they watch wear gloves. So guess who gets to spend $50 on youth gloves?
Right.
Because they got to have them.
But does it matter? Like, I guess this would be a philosophical question. What does it matter if somebody is watching Russell Brand, a guy who was known for his partying and his other lifestyle, how he was, and he's now coming to find Christ, and he's talking about it very openly and very honestly. Like, that's just another way for people to learn about it. I mean, it's not. I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. It just is sad, in my mind, that it takes the voice of Russell Brand and not the voice of your grandmother or your grandfather.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, we're in a society now, a culture now, where we would listen to somebody we don't know over people that we do.
Well, and with families that are divided, as terrible as the family circumstance is in this country, divisive in the number of divorces and all that stuff.
Yep.
And plus, there's a respect problem from youth with parents, because
with authority.
Absolutely. It's serious problems with authority. And part of my stupid parents is just a kid being a kid, going through their phases.
Yes.
But there's teachers telling kids, don't listen to your parents. Your parents don't understand this. Your parents don't understand that.
Well, the government's saying it now too. Like, we don't have a right to tell our kids that they can't become women.
Right.
Our male,
Right.
So you sit back and go, oh.
Right. And so maybe this is just another way, or not maybe, it is just another way for people to come in contact with whoever the authority figure is in their life. If that person is pushing a message of God and love, and, that could be a massive shift. And I honestly think that people like Donald Trump, I mean, we'll go back to the political just for a moment, but Donald Trump, he has changed his tune, changed his tenor significantly over the past several years, because he has been humbled under all of his duress that he's been put under, and that people will follow suit with that as well when they see the political environment start to change. And you see this guy who was a bombastic, quick, sharp-tongued businessman, Donald Trump, lash these people for all these years, and then all of a sudden you see him
rhetoric begins to change, right?
You see him sit on stage with a sad old man, Joe Biden, let him make a fool out of himself, and that it's things like that will eventually temper it. But Donald Trump in 4 years is not going to fix most of that.
I don't think anybody could. And the other half is it's definitely not going to be Kamala that fixes it.
No,
right? I mean, so what are they going to put up there? What are we going to see in the next couple months? Are we going to see Gavin Newsom? I don't think so, because he's no different, right? He is no different than the rest of them. He's part of the establishment in a sense. You can see what he's done in California, and the massive wave of businesses and people pulling out of California. So I don't even know how he got. I mean, the fact that he had a vote off in the middle of his term because people didn't like him.
Right.
Should tell you everything. If Californians are having trouble with him, he can't make it in Iowa.
No, you bring up his record from his time as governor. I mean, the guy's. Some people don't care, to be perfectly honest. There's still a huge faction out there that says, well, it's not Donald Trump, so I'll vote for him.
Yes.
And that's the tough one. And the fact that Kamala Harris is a woman of color, and that there's going to be a huge I wish I had pulled up the graphic of women and how they've been voting, but unmarried women 68%, I think, voting Democrat. And then married women, it was still only 52%. But it was a lower number. But
It's a much lower number, yeah.
Yeah. But you're going to get a huge chunk of women who are going to say, that's a woman of color, first woman president. I wanted Hillary. I voted for,
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? And she's going to shave a certain percentage of that off as well. And that's competing with Trump's growing popularity is basically what it is. Because Trump was shooting up in the polls, especially after the assassination attempt and after the debate. And so I don't know, man. It's just
But it's like as soon as that, so she steps down, right? The director of the Secret Service resigns, steps down, even though she was wildly qualified, probably the best to do this job. She resigns, and what have we heard about any of this stuff over the past week? It's almost like they're trying to take the wind out of the sails of what has happened to Trump, of the RNC.
Yeah.
They're trying to pull the wind out of the sails by now doing this. And I do think that this was timed the way it was for that very reason. That they knew they had to do something drastic to take the focus off of Trump. And so this is what they decided to do. He gets COVID. He disappears. He resigns. So now the talk has gone away from Trump, which is fine. I'm sure he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
To all this now. We've forgotten about the assassination attempt. We've forgotten that there were minutes. I mean, the more stuff that's coming out about that,
Oh, dude.
the more you go, this was a hit.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
The cell phone that was pinged at his house and also pinged next to the FBI
Yes.
complex.
The fact that they knew he was there hours before.
Mm-hmm.
They were watching him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he magically, like a leprechaun, disappeared.
It's jacked up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're not going to get straight answers. I haven't watched. Director Wray was in front of Congress, and I haven't watched any of his, what he was saying, other than they said they found in his search history how far was Lee Harvey Oswald from JFK, that was apparently part of his search history, but they haven't released anything else. From everything that I've heard and what most people have been reporting, there's been no searches on how to make bombs. There's been no, none of that stuff in his history. One of the representatives, I don't recall his name. He was a former, not Green Beret, SEAL sniper. Wish I could remember the dude's name. But he was asking him questions saying, is it true that when they went into this guy's house, it was clean, there was no silverware, it was almost like an operating theater? And he said, well, I can't comment. And he said, well, that's what I've been told. So he's getting the information second and third,
Sure.
backdooring.
Nobody's getting the right info.
So, yeah, more's going to come out, but it's going to take Congress really putting the screws to the FBI. Because remember, the FBI they're the same people who orchestrated the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping. They're the same ones who you could, FBI, CIA, and their involvement in, JFK. These people don't have the best of reputations.
No.
Tons of trouble with them goading people, entrapping people so that they can get more convictions. That's become standard practice with the FBI. The same FBI who put classified cover sheets on Donald Trump's documents and then took pictures of it and tried to use that to get a former president convicted in court. So they're willing to fabricate information. Like, this is not a reputable organization. And now that there's a link and possible links to them through these cell phones that were pinged, or the cell phone that was pinged at this kid's house and also pinged next to the FBI complex in D.C., and we're going to expect those people to do I was talking to my wife about it. She said, we've got to get somebody else to investigate the FBI's investigation. I said, that's a very good point. Yes, we do.
But who? I mean, hire a PI? What do you do?
Get the Blackwater guy to do it. Remember Blackwater?
Yeah.
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 He's of course, I don't think it's a company anymore.
But I mean, you think about it. That's what it would take somebody with those kind of resources to be able to do it.
Or I mean, I'll be honest. That's a good question. There are ways to audit the FBI and to investigate other agencies, but when it's something as specialized as the FBI, I'm not sure who would.
What
do
we
it.
need is to have in the law enforcement category of government, we need the checks and balances, just like we have in our three-tiered system, right?
Right.
And so you've got the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch, right? They need an FBI, and then they need a CFBI, like a counter FBI.
Right.
Like, they just duke it out.
Right.
This is all they do is try to find is try. They have to go against each other.
Yeah.
All the time, because that group could figure this out. But right now it's all harmonious, right? Right now they all have the same think tank. They all do the same thing, and they work together, which is great because they can get a lot of stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the stonewalling when they get to Congress. You have that can't answer that.
Right. And then it goes on for years like that. Which is not not law that they can't talk about it, by the way. So in Congress, if it's TSSCI or it's some type of classified information, yeah, you can't release that in an open
forum.
Forum. But not commenting on a federal investigation, that's a precedent that it's basically a precedent that was set in Congress. It's not, my understanding anyways, is that it's not written in the law that you can't do that. So you can talk about it, but it's become an accepted, kind of hands off, I'm not going to say anything, and then they'll stretch it out for years and years and until it becomes non-news. But it's just like, doing it before a presidential election. We talk about the Hunter Biden's laptop. It's being investigated. It's being investigated. It's being investigated. It's being investigated. And they don't say anything about it until you stretch it past the election cycle. And then you can release it, and the media will help you control that information, and it fades away. And it, on page 6, it'll get reported or something like that.
Right.
And so that's just
the nature of the beast. It's the way it's gone for years, right?
And we suffer, the American people who want answers.
Because we want to know.
Or with JFK. Look at JFK. It's been 60 years, dude.
We don't know. We have no idea.
They know. We don't know.
And what's amazing is they've never said. Nobody's let that out.
Yeah.
Right?
That's who was oh man. Oh, it was somebody talking about how they knew that the Bible was accurate and how it wasn't people question the Bible. Oh, the validity of the Bible. Right. No, the Bible's it's wrong, it's been changed, it's been altered and all that stuff. And he said, I know the Bible is true because, and it was a guy that was part of the Nixon's thing,
Watergate.
Watergate.
Yeah.
And he said, I know that the Bible is true because
yeah.
there were people, he said, that lied about this for, all their life and held the same story despite being a different. And he said, I was in a room with 12 people and we couldn't keep it together for 6 weeks.
Right.
Couldn't keep our story straight.
Couldn't keep your story straight for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the nefarious players and the fact that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've got to focus on that. I think so often we miss it and we Trump this, Biden that, or Harris that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's spirits at work all the time.
Yes.
And, if the Trump thing was an inside job, well, that's not of God.
Right.
Right? And
spiritual warfare, man.
It never ends.
No, it never ends.
And it's the same tactics and it's the same stuff over and over and over. The Clintons are definitely in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you sit back and go, how many things it's so bad that it's a joke.
Yeah.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
It's so bad that it's a joke. Anybody that has a word against them is going to disappear. Right?
Right. When you have to think about what these politicians are up against too, I think about the temptations of being in a place like Washington, D.C. You've got more millionaires per capita than any other place in the country. Mm-hmm. You've got money, influence. You've got, you got car service. You got people that are, some bootlickers and some people that are just wanting to, because you're important, right?
You become a god.
Right. You become a god.
Little g.
Mm-hmm. And you've got your own little circle. And you've got the next position that you're trying to get to, and that if once I get out of Congress, I can go over and work for these people, and I'll be making $7 million a year as a lobbyist, or I'll be working for this contractor, and I'll be making this monstrous salary, and I'll get to fly first class, and I'll get and it takes people of principle going into D.C. that say, I'm not taking the big money, like a Matt Gaetz. He's like, I'm not taking the big donor money. I'm going to raise my money through, small folks. I'm sure he makes money off of his social media, but that's of his own doing, right? That takes his own effort. And you've got people that are not letting the lobbyists into their office, that are people of principle who can see all that corruption and all that enticing power and influence and not let it go to their head. And so many of them do. And they sink. My representative doesn't seem to do that. Diana Harshbarger.
Right.
She seems to stay this even keel, she's just a tough girl from Tennessee, right? And that seems to me to be fewer and farther between the ones willing to do
Definitely.
that. So that's the force of evil. It's such an easy place to corrupt someone.
Yeah. And what is that saying? Absolute power.
Corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. So you end up with a group of people. I would imagine it would become easy to become like-minded, money hungry, chasing, because all your peers are doing it. You just follow. It's peer pressure, if you will, right? It's back in high school.
Yeah.
You're back in high school where you all do the same thing.
Insider trading.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Well, not in high school, but those people.
No, but that was that's an unbelievable graphic. That insider, the trading graphic that you had about how they all outperform the S&P.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to go searching for it. People are smart; they can find it on their own. But I mean, look at what these people in DC are doing financially, and they've got to know. I mean, there's no two ways about it. They've got to know they all outperform the people that study this for a living, right?
They all beat Warren Buffett. They beat all the hedge fund managers. They beat the top guys on Wall Street.
Yeah. So here we are already, though. We've shifted from, because we're just going, but I want to talk about this.
Okay.
So the new poll, it just came out, right?
Yes. This one is, let me pull that one back up here. We got on a roll talking about that stuff. And so a poll released by Reuters on Tuesday revealed that Kamala Harris holds a 2-point lead over Donald Trump following Biden dropping out of the race and endorsing his vice president to be his replacement. However, the Reuters poll that showed a swing in voters for Harris has interviewed a large share of Democrat voters compared to the previous poll on the topic. So they swayed it by, and this is to shape the narrative, right, is let's skew this a little bit towards Democrats so that we can bump those polls up because, and I didn't pull that one up. The poll that I showed last time after the presidential debate, she was down by 2 points. And so now, right after they say, oh, she's the one, they say, well, what do people think about it? Well, obviously she's up in the polls and much better than Donald Trump. So they made up the margin of error by swaying the number of people.
I mean, so here we're still here at the same place that we were in 2020, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're making this a game when you know that it's not. It's just not. I'm sorry. Yeah. She couldn't even get her own party's nod.
Right.
Right? So you mean to tell me in 4 years of being the border czar? Remember that. Like, she's the border czar. This is her fault.
Yes.
She's got a better approval rate. She's got a better rating than Donald Trump in polling. I doubt it. I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
I mean,
they can tie that around her. That you were saying it before the show that this ought to be the thing. I got to bring it up so everybody can see it. This border crisis, she's got to own that.
Oh, she'll be forced to.
Now, Axios came out. This is what's crazy. Let's see if speaking of this, the media is now claiming VP Kamala Harris was never the border czar as the Trump campaign starts. When they started hitting that point that she was responsible for the border, they said no, she never was. Well, here Colin Rugg pulled up March 24th in 2021. Biden puts Harris in charge of border crisis. That's from Axios. July 24th. 2024, the Trump campaign and Republican have tagged Harris repeatedly with the border czar title, which she never actually had. I don't know how much clearer you make it. you can make it to people that
Well, here's the
they
thing, though.
are straight up lying.
But people aren't going. They're not going to go back to that unless the mainstream media starts to do its job and be like, no, that's not true.
Right.
And I mean, we've seen little bits and snippets of it, like when Biden had his last interview, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like, no, you've seen the crowds try, look at the crowd we got out there, it's like, yeah, I don't think you want to talk about drawing crowds.
Yeah.
That's probably not your strong suit, where he's like, you probably don't want to talk about that because Donald Trump definitely is drawing the crowds right now.
Yeah.
And so, but nobody's going back to check that.
No.
And so we live in the present day, and everybody is listening to their narrative. Everybody's listening to whatever stations they listen to, right? And if this group of people says, well, that she was never the border czar, then okay, I believe them.
Yeah.
Because they said it. And nobody's going to fact check them because they're fact checkers.
Right. Well, they're journalists.
Right.
They're telling me that they're giving me a fair shake of the information.
Right. And so that's who's going to control everything here.
Well, and keep in mind, the articles were written by the same journalist in this one here.
Same journalist wrote
same
that
journalist
article.
wrote both those articles.
Oh, so he's not calling out the media. He's calling out this journalist.
Yeah, both.
Articles were written by the same journalist, Steph Knight.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing. Is like they know. The journalists know. The people that are supposed to be, the Walter Cronkites of the world who used to say, here's your information.
Right. They know.
Do with it as you wish, American citizens. No, that's not it anymore. They're saying, I have the power of the pen.
I can change my mind anytime I want.
Exactly. And I can state something that I know clearly to be false. But you know what? My party is so much more important. It's because the politics being downstream of culture downstream of worldview, they have siloed us in politically speaking. And so the left has one worldview and the right has another worldview. Like, it's entirely different. And yet, to shape these worldviews and to make people believe things that are not so, they'll just straight out lie because their politics are more important. They don't have anything else guiding them. If you're a Christian, right? If you're a person of faith, you have certain principles. I'm not going to lie to you. If I say something that I thought was true that was false, I'm going to tell you because I'm not going to be dishonest to you. If you don't have that worldview guiding you, and your worldview ends at Washington D.C. and your political party being in power, there's nothing guiding your morals. There's nothing changing your worldview, and you'll lie.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you.
Right.
Because that's where you get, and this is why founding fathers, when they said that we were endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, they recognized a higher power. Some of them were deist or they were, whatever.
Sure.
But they recognized a higher power. And now the federal government, and particularly the political left, has started to say, you know what? We need to get rid of this higher power thing because we've taken it out of the churches, or out of the churches, but out of the schools and all that.
Yep.
The government's where you get your rights and freedoms. And in fact, there was a lady being interviewed not too long ago who said, these are the people, these Christian nationalists, who believe that their rights come from God and not from the federal government and the Supreme Court. It's like, because that's where they come from. But there's a whole segment of
a whole
society
group,
that
a whole big group of society that believes otherwise, not recognizing the fact that our laws come from, the law,
right?
But yeah, I mean, so this is the same person reporting this, and they need to be fired.
In any other society, they would,
right? I mean, this
20
is
years ago they would.
This is 20 years ago, this person would lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's but now we don't do that anymore. I mean, so what are we supposed to do? Steph Knight, I can never believe anything you say again.
Right.
And that's what needs, and once the American people start to go, nope, because you lied to me, then that might change some things here. But we don't, because we're listening to what we listen to today and forgetting what we listened to back then. Apparently, I mean, we're talking 3 years. People can't remember 3 years ago when she said that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
This is, you were saying a little while ago about why does everything have to be political? Why can't, and it's one of those things where if we're not, and I always think of us, as people of faith, we when politics really started to heat up, I feel like we kind of withdrew, and it's because we always say that we're in this world, we're not supposed to be of this world,
Sure.
right? So I'm going to withdraw from this world. When you have recognizing that Marxism is what is driving a lot of this and driving the narrative and driving our politics, especially on the left, that they will, if you don't do a better job of seeking people out and crafting your, delivery on the word of God and the morals that accompany that, and the same ones that have carried our country for 240 years, or at least we'll say close to
Sure.
it.
Close to it. Yeah.
And you withdraw from that, then the culture will come find you, and the culture will attack you because you are especially Marxism. And I say the culture, Marxism will come find you, and that I feel like that's what we've allowed to happen.
We're experiencing it,
right?
Right. It's everywhere and it's in everything.
Right. And so now we're fighting an uphill battle, and
Right. Where we didn't have to. I mean, we didn't have to fight the uphill battle. If we speak the truth in love, if we've always done that, we wouldn't have to fight this uphill battle.
right.
But our grandfathers let us down by not teaching that and instilling that, right?
Right.
And so you kind of got to sit back and go, okay, at some point there was a shift, right? And I do believe in, I'm going to say this because we only have a couple minutes and then we don't have to deal with too much feedback. But I do believe a lot of this started with the absence of male headship in the homes,
Yeah.
of women taking on the roles of men. And so you end up with a society that is much softer, that is much more easily swayed. And, and you just watch the way that men and women interact with their own kids, right? My wife is getting the Band-Aid, and I'm saying, get up, rub some dirt on it,
Sure.
keep going. You can't stop, So, because we're created differently. We see things differently. And I believe that the downfall started in the 50s with the feminist movement, which is Marxist.
Yes, very much so.
But we don't, that's ridiculous. Okay, you do your own homework and you tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, that's the answer to everybody. Show me your work, because I've done mine. And when I say the feminist movement is Marxist, and you can come back and say, no, it's not, I can go do some homework on it. Why don't you read up on it? Because I have, and I can tell you, at its core, it's Marxism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's designed to split the family apart. It's designed solely to make men a bystander, to get rid of them. Abortion, another part of the agenda, right? It's your choice. Okay.
Yeah.
And so here we are today, going, what can unite the country? Who could possibly come and unite the country? I think you hit it on the head. Jesus, a revival, people repenting. I mean, that's what the word says. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, turn, repent, seek my face, I'll hear from heaven and I'll heal their broken land. Maybe that was, dare I say, even a prophetic word over us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you, that's it. I mean, that's it. And if we have a president that's a Christ follower, it can't be one that is a heavy-handed Christ follower.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be one that has to lead us out of compassion and love for one another.
Sure.
Recognizing not everybody's going to side with Jesus right away.
Yeah.
It's all about how you present the message. It's all about how you bring that forth. And yeah, so there's my 2 cents. It's 10:01. We did it.
Oh, wow. That went about fast.
Yeah, and there's still a lot more to talk about.
Oh, there's so much. We only touched on a fraction of what I had pulled up, so that was good.
And there's other things. I mean, we touched on last week prophecy a little bit about Trump being shot, and I wanted to say, because there are people out there that don't believe in the prophetic. that these modern prophets are just a bunch of garbage. No, prophecy only started, it's only in the Bible. But, and if it doesn't come true, then, well, not all the prophecies in the Bible, like Job, for example, said that Nineveh would be destroyed, right? And Nineveh repented, turned, and was not destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't wrong. God had his hand in this. And if Nineveh hadn't repented, they were going to be destroyed, but they weren't, even though that's what Job said. So you go, it has to be in God's time, and it has to be, when that guy said that he saw Trump get shot, it hadn't happened yet. And people are like, that's crazy, right? When Kim Clement said that Trump was going to be a trumpet, Donald Trump was going to be a trumpet way back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. God's going to use that guy? That's crazy, right? And so they can be dismissed as false prophets because it hasn't happened yet. And people do that. Where I go, I don't know. Let's sit back and wait. And then there's also the weight of humanity having a pull on the fulfillment of prophecies. So if Nineveh hadn't turned, God would have destroyed them. Mm-hmm. Just like he said God would have destroyed them. But they repented and came to Christ, or came to Yahweh at that time. Mm-hmm. So he didn't. He held his hand back. And so, does that mean the prophecy went unfulfilled? No, I believe it's God's sovereignty that was fulfilled. It was a pretty direct message. So, there are people, and I only bring that up because there's, a couple people have reached out about modern day prophecy. Do I believe everything that's said? I weigh it against Scripture. Number one, always. Number two, wait and see.
Yeah. And
if it doesn't, okay. If it doesn't in my lifetime, okay. I don't know. But anytime somebody says, "Thus saith the Lord," mm-hmm. I go, okay. Let me weigh that out. Mm-hmm. Let me wait and see. There's no right or wrong. And I think the thing that I would say is, it hasn't stopped just because the Bible was written. God still speaks to his people.
Yes. Yeah.
And so if you're one of those people out there that believes that stuff is a bunch of hogwash, then I don't know that you fully ascribe to the full measure of the Word of God. Because it never says that that's going to stop. So, there's my 2 cents. 10:04.
10:04.
Well, as always, we love you. Thanks for tuning in tonight. What a week.
It's crazy. It's like every time we turn around.
I wonder what next week's going to hold.
I'm not looking forward to it.
I
can't handle too much of this. I mean, it's like assassination attempts and presidents dropping out and
there needs
Yellowstone
to be,
blowing up.
I think we need to have a week of like flowers and just, instead of talking this stuff, maybe we just talk sunshine. Rainbows and sunshine.
Let's do a sunshine show.
Yeah, we should do next week. Let's do a sunshine and puppies show.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're going to find out the good things about people, and we'll take it from there.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Because there's so much of this in the media. There's so much of this that we go, okay, even Kamala Harris, look what she did. She donated $72 to, you know what I mean? Like, there's got to be something good.
Oh, yeah.
So
there's probably some, let's find some good stories.
Because we're all human. So let's find some good stuff. We'll put it up there and just, and because, man, sometimes it's true. The weight that we carry by looking deeper into these things can really spiral in your mind.
Sure.
And can make you a dark person.
Yeah.
And I want to be a half full kind of person, not a half empty.
Yeah.
Because I know my king is returning.
Yeah.
I know that we are temporary here. This is all part of this is a stopgap.
Yeah.
and that Jesus is still on the throne, and there's nothing for us to worry about. So why? Why do we get worried about this stuff? So let's do rainbows, sunshine and rainbows. And remember the wet one from tonight. I like to play that back again if I can find it. So
I can't believe you heard that.
Oh man, I hear
that
it.
a whole speech. I was hanging on every word. And
I heard
notes.
it. I heard it. I was like, what was that just now? Here we go. Well, we'll just send you off with this if we can pull it up here.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Like,
You know, we've come so far since my inauguration. On that day I told you, as I stood in that winter, we stood in a winter of peril and a winter of possibilities. Peril and possibilities.
What is he talking about?
The day I told you, we detained all around the world.
There it was. There it was. Just a little squishy. Just a little squishy.
I can't believe you.
Yeah.
I can't believe you heard that.
If you have comments or concerns, obviously concerns you have, a lot of them if you listen. Go ahead and email us at thebraverthantherest@gmail.com. Also, as always, we love your comments. We will talk about you on air to anybody that wants to hear about you. Don't worry. We'll bring up your comments and we'll talk right to you. So keep them coming. Like and share us. And again, keep your eyes to the skies because our King is coming. Braver than the rest. Till next week. We love you.